I'd like to welcome you to the reorganization meeting of the school board and the financing corporation meeting this day, the 28th day of November 2023. If anyone would like to speak during the hearing of citizens regarding the reorganizational meeting, please fill out a card in the lobby and I will call you up in the appropriate time and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Do we have any more cards? We will start with Miss Barbara Vaughn.
Yes, as the gentleman said, let's get the prayer done first, as it should be. Father God, we give you thanks and praise because we have so much to thank you for. We thank you for coming to the end of another semester and a safe and productive school year. We thank you for changes that are being made and progress that's being made. As we approach the holiday season, Lord, we think first of all of Hanukkah, and we will be happy to celebrate with our Jewish friends the miracle of the oil that was only supposed to last for one night and lasted for 8. And we thank you, God. And we're celebrating too a second miracle, the birth of the Son of God, Jesus Christ, and we thank you for all the celebrating that goes with that part of the season. Lord Jesus, we come to you as always with hearts full of sorrow as we see the news every day. We think about our friends in Israel and especially those whose family members and friends are being held hostage. Lord, we ask you to be with those who are hostages, keep them safe and well, and return them to their families soon, Lord. We ask you this from the bottom of our hearts, Lord, and help us never to forget as we celebrate these reasons to celebrate in this season. Help us to remember those whose hearts are not full of celebration. Keep our hearts full of love for you. We thank you, Lord. Amen.
Thank you. At this time, Paulina Testerman, followed by Mary Holmes.
Good evening. My name is Paulina Testerman, and I have 2 children who attend Sarasota County Public Schools. In a few short moments, this board will be electing a new school board chair. One of the roles of the school board chair is to preside over workshops and school board meetings. It is presumed that in a moment, Mrs. Rose will be nominated for the position. While I cringe at the inevitable, I recognize that there may be an opportunity here. Back in April, this board hosted 4 town hall meetings asking our community to list the qualities that they did and did not want in a superintendent. I attended 3 out of the 4 of those meetings, and the overwhelming thing that Sarasota residents asked for was the removal of politics from our schools. Luckily, I took a photo of the list of qualities that our residents wanted. The top 4 qualities were apolitical, inclusive, experienced, and compassionate. We can assume that the community wants those same qualities in a school board. The majority of our students are neither Democrat nor Republican, neither liberal nor conservative. They are children, and your leadership should be willing to serve our community regardless of your own political ideologies. So I'm encouraging the board today to listen to the will of the community. This board spent our tax dollars on these community town hall meetings, and thus they should listen to the results of those meetings. I am encouraging this board to show unity and show that you are not going to drag politics into this arena. Don't just say it, prove it. This board has repeatedly, ad nauseum, stated that you want to remove politics from the dais. Prove it today. Elect Tom Edwards as vice chair. Restore our trust.
Thank you. At this time, Mary Holmes and then Dr. Jill Lewis-Spector. And just looking at the subject, Dr. Spector, it says media materials evaluation. Would you like to wait until the regular board meeting or? Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Holmes, and I'm a 35-year veteran ESE teacher. I really have nothing much additional to add to what Paulina said. I attended the same number of the community meetings, and I heard the same feedback from parents, teachers, taxpayers, concerned community members, that what we really wanted and needed was an apolitical atmosphere and somebody who would support all students all the time, every student, every day. It's become so cliche. Because of the way the board is currently made up, I also believe that Karen Rose will most likely be elected chair this evening. And Karen and I go back, I don't want to age myself, a few years. And I go back just a few years with Tom. I think that, much as what Paulina said, the best way to demonstrate that you are truly serious about keeping politics out and working everybody together for the best interest of our students is to elect Tom vice chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Robin Williams, followed by Richard Stammer.
To my knowledge, Mrs. Rose has not yet issued a public apology for the unwanted trauma last year on our whole community. I would hope that she would do that and put partisanship aside. It was just 1 year ago today that, 1 year ago, I'm sorry, that we had to deal with that loss of the superintendent. And it was really traumatic for the whole district and all the, teachers, students, parents, apologizing for that undue burden on everybody is important. I think I guess you're going to become chair. I would hope that there's been, there was one consistent voice of reason through the whole craziness with Vermillion and the superintendent firing, and that clear voice was Mr. Edwards. So I think, as was said by others, that it would be a good idea to have him at least as vice chair. Frankly, I would rather see him chair because I know that's wishful thinking, but we need to move forward in a nonpartisan, non-political way here. And with regard, one other thing with regard to the financial crisis, since that's also part of this meeting, the Sarasota School District and all public school districts in Florida are currently facing a financial crisis because of HB1. And we should call for its reversal and the restoration of funds for our school districts. Get rid of educational savings accounts or universal vouchers. Really, they should be called bankrupt public education or loot the public till accounts. Public education is a pillar of democracy. It's under attack by politicians on the take, billionaires, and for-profit school management corporations like Academica and Charter School USA. Public funds are also going to religious schools, violating the separation of church and state, a foundational American constitutional principle. Protect public education. No public funds for charter schools, private schools, nor homeschooling. Fully fund public education.
Thank you. Richard Stammer, followed by Elizabeth Bornstein.
And good evening. I'm Richard Stammer. I'm a 21-year resident of Sarasota County, and I'm a retired child welfare professional. I'm very concerned about education for our children and also for the rights of their parents. I've been here before, and I'm coming with my own positive message today. I'm very pleased that you are considering a change in chairperson. It's something that I and others had requested for the last few months. And so I'm pleased to see you moving in that direction. And as a citizen, I feel it's my responsibility to say who I would like to see as chair. And I heartily recommend that you vote and approve Tom Edwards as chair of this school board. I've watched Tom in action. I've seen how his dignity, how he stands up to stones that have been thrown at him with aplomb and with a sense of fair play. I believe he would bring real balance to this board. And I also feel it would send a message to Florida and to the nation that this county strongly believes in fairness, strongly believes in the rights of all children. And I just think he would just be terrific, and I would be thrilled. And if not chair, because I recognize that Ms. Rose is also in the running, then vice chair, although my first preference is as chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Ms. Elizabeth Bornstein.
Greetings, Superintendent, board members, board attorney, student representative. I'm Elizabeth Bornstein. I am here once again as a parent of a middle schooler in the district. I'm an involved parent and an advocate for public education. I come here to represent other parents who can't join us because of the scheduling of these meetings. And I too don't want to sound like a broken record, and sometimes I get looks from the dais as if I repeat myself meeting after meeting. But I do want to reflect on where we've been a year ago and where we've come to. And I always like to shine the light on the positives. I'm grateful that we were able to hire a wonderfully qualified and competent superintendent. It wasn't looking positive about that about a year ago. So that is something I want to thank all of you for, those of you who supported our superintendent being hired, to have him here with us now. I want to reflect, though, on the trauma that was caused a year ago and the undermining, incredible undermining of trust of parents, of teachers, staff, administration, of how we could work collaboratively as a school district and move forward. And we certainly want to move on. We don't want to keep belaboring that. And again, I don't want to be given looks that I'm sounding like a broken record. But trust is really important. It is the foundation for leadership. And we've already seen what a true leader can do when he establishes himself well in the community and begins to build trust. He's reaching out to the families and all of the participants in our school district, and trust is being restored in some ways, but not in the board. There's been a lack of balance and a lack of fairness and politicization of the issues that really are not what we're here for. We're here for our students, our children, and that's why I'm here. So for this new reorganization this time, I really hope that you will seek some balance, that you will seek to restore trust, that you will balance the right and the left, the red and the blue, allow Mr. Edwards a voice on the dais. He certainly put his heart and soul into the work that he does on behalf of the board and our community for our students and our teachers and our staff and administration and parents. And I think there needs to be a collaboration.
Thank you, Ms. Bornstein.
Thank you.
That concludes our hearing of citizens. At this time, before we begin our nominations for chair, I found it fitting to begin a new tradition in Sarasota County as we kind of pass the torch of the chairmanship to someone new, maybe perhaps the same person, but in recognition and appreciation as school board chair for the Sarasota County School Board for the 22-23 school year. We want to present to you, Ms. Ziegler, this plaque that was actually manufactured by our students at STC in the CNE class for 2023. And it's my hope that we can begin to recognize this is a thankless job many times, and you take a lot of arrows for whoever sits in this seat. And so we thank you for your dedication over the last year. So thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you, and this is really cool. I love that it was made by our students, and I know that there's a lot that many people don't necessarily see that takes place as a chairman, but it's been an honor to serve, and this last year was definitely a roller coaster, but I'm very, as I said today during the workshop, I think we do tremendous work together, particularly when we're focused as a board. Our workshops exemplify that, but I feel very confident we're in some good steady waters, and I'm really looking forward to the years ahead, so thank you so much.
All right. Any other comments?
Me? No.
Anyone else? All right. At this time, we will take nominations for chair. Please note that this is a nomination as opposed to a motion, so there is no second that is needed. So nominations are now in order for the office of chair of Sarasota County School Board for the 23-24 school year. Are there any nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Karen Rose for chair.
I have one nomination for Karen Rose as chair. Are there any other nominations? At this time, I declare the nominations closed. Those in favor of Karen Rose serving as the chair for the 23-24 school year, please vote now. We will do this by voice vote. Mr. Edwards? Yes. Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Ms. Ziegler?
Yes.
Ms. Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli?
Yes.
All right, 5, that is unanimous, 5-0 vote. Karen Rose will now be serving as the chair for the 23-24 school year. Please note, at this time, we'll be doing nominations for vice chair. As opposed to a motion, no second is needed. Nominations are now in order for the office of Vice Chair for the Sarasota County School Board for the 23-24 school year. Are there any nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Tim Enos for Vice Chair.
Have one nomination for Tim Enos. Any other nominations? At this time, I'll declare the nominations closed. We'll take a voice vote at this time. Those in favor of Tim Enos serving as the vice chair for the 23-24 school year, please vote now. Mr. Edwards? Yes. Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Ms. Ziegler?
Yes.
Ms. Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. I hereby declare Mr. Tim Enos the 23-24 vice chair of the Sarasota County School Board. I will now pass the gavel to our new chair, Ms. Rose.
Thank you, Superintendent Connor, and it's an honor to serve as chair, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity. I would also like to once again recognize Mrs. Bridget Ziegler. It was a tough year. I'm extraordinarily proud of your leadership and the work that this board has accomplished. I'm very proud that we are in a place that is focused on student achievement and is data-driven, and particularly the work that we did today exemplifies that, looking at exceptional student education and the needs and the putting systems in place for all of our students and referencing Wilma Hamilton, every student, every day. So I'm incredibly excited about the trajectory that we are on. So moving on, we're looking at approval of the 2024 regular school board meetings, item number 7. Those meeting dates are January 16th February 6th, February 6th and 20th, March 5th and 19th, April 2nd and 16th, May 7 and 21, June 4 and 18, July 16, August 6 and 21, September 3 and 17, October 1 and 15, November 6 and 19, and December 10. The first meeting of the month will start at 6 o'clock p.m. The second meeting of the month starts at 3 o'clock p.m. The months of January, July, and December only have one meeting with a start time of 6 o'clock p.m. May I have a motion?
I move that the 2024 regular school board meeting dates be approved as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the 2024 regular school board meeting dates be approved as presented, and we'll proceed with a voice vote. Mr. Edwards, please. Yes. Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mrs. Marinelli?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, and the motion passes 5-0. Item number 8 is a suspension of the reorganizational meeting. The annual meeting confirms and ratifies all actions taken by the officers and directors and elects the chair as president and the superintendent as secretary and treasurer. May I have a motion, please?
Yes, I move that the reorganizational meeting be temporarily suspended and the annual meeting of the Financing Corporation for the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida be convened.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and I will call for a voice vote. Mr. Edwards, please. Yes. Mr. Enos.
Yes.
Mrs. Ziegler.
Yes.
Mrs. Marinelli.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, and the motion passes 5-0. Item number 9, election of officers. Corporations are required to submit an annual report to the Florida Department of State Division of Corporations. This action will update the elected officers of the Financing Corporation to the current chair and superintendent. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the board elect Karen Rose as president of the corporation and Terry Connor as the secretary and treasurer of the corporation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and we'll call for a voice vote, starting with Mr. Edwards, please. Yes. Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mrs. Marinelli?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, and the motion passes 5-0. Item number 10 is adjournment of the annual Financing Corporation meeting to reconvene the reorganizational meeting. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the annual meeting of the Financing Corporation of the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida be adjourned.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and a voice vote will be called. Please, Mr. Edwards? Yes. Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, and the motion passes 5-0. The reorganizational meeting is now adjourned. Yes, and we will take a 10-minute break. It is currently, 6:08. We will reconvene at 6:20. Thank you.
I like this seal.
Sorry, 19.
I'm like, why did nobody say? Okay. I just was sitting there chuckling. I'm like, I didn't have say no. Throw those glasses. Throw those stones. Throw those stones.
Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday, November 28th, 2023. The public is encouraged and welcome to address the school board at the hearing of citizens. Once the hearing of citizens begins, no more cards will be collected. I will call you forward at the appropriate time. Today, our student representative is Ethan Stalker from Pineview School and will lead us in the pledge. The Venice Middle School Young Marines will present the colors. Please stand. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Performing for us this evening are dancers from Northport High School's Visual and Performing Arts Repertory Dance Ensemble, directed by Heather Nelson, who will be performing Sleeping Beauty's Curse this Friday, December 1st at 7 p.m. The dance ensemble will perform with the Northport High Advanced Orchestra for this special event, featuring the music of Tchaikovsky, and tickets are still available. Tonight, we will see a scene in which two fairies bring blessings to the infant princess. This evening's performers are Remy Laffey and Zoe Drackler. Outstanding. Well done. Let's give them another round of applause. Our student representative today is Ethan Stalker, once again from Pineview School. Welcome, Ethan. It's nice for you to join us as our student representative, and we're all really interested. We'd like to know a little bit more about you.
Pineview. I put in my application to go to Harvard in November, earlier this month, and I'd like to study government and hopefully work for the U.S. government in some advisory capacity in the future. Maybe get into politics as well, but that's certainly something.
Thank you very much, Ethan. We'd like to thank you for serving this evening on the dais with us, and we have a certificate we'd like to present you with, and we wish you the very best of luck in your future. To introduce tonight's special presentation, I would like to invite Dr. Megan Green and Michelle Anderson to the podium, please.
Chairwoman Rose, members of the board, and Superintendent Connor. The Why Vote contest is conducted through the Education Action Team of the League of Women Voters of Sarasota and is funded in partnership with the Gulf Coast Community Foundation. Local high school students were challenged to share their thoughts on the importance of voting in our democratic society. Entrants were asked to create a call to action project to increase voter participation. Projects could be an essay, poster, or a video. We are excited to have students from Pineview School, Riverview High School, Suncoast Polytech, and Venice High School with us tonight to receive awards. Presenting the awards to our students is Dr. Jill Lewis-Spector, Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Florida and Chair of Sarasota Education Action Team. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lewis-Spector to the podium.
Thank you very much, Michelle. This is the second year that our Education Action Team of Sarasota County has conducted this Why Vote contest, which was for high school students, public high school students in Sarasota County, and that included charter schools. We want to extend our thanks and sincere appreciation to Superintendent Connor, the school board, administrators, and teachers for promoting the contest and encouraging students to enter it. We also want to acknowledge the generosity of Gulf Coast Community Foundation that has funded this contest each year. All entries were judged by a team of league members as well as writing and art experts from the Sarasota community. They did not know the student names, the grades they were in, or the schools they attended. We believe that it was a benefit to all the students who entered the contest to think about why voting is important, so they will be more committed to exercise the right they have to express their voice through their vote. I would like to mention that all of the winning essays and posters will be on display throughout Sarasota County's libraries at different locations and times between now and the end of the school year. We hope you'll visit your local library and take a look at the wonderful entries we receive from these students. And now, Vilya Johnson, who is the Vice President of the Sarasota League of Women Voters, is going to help me in giving out the awards. Vilya? So, our third place winner in the poster contest is Jacqueline Williams.
We do have a microphone. Yes, please, so then they can.
I'll do it from there. The third place winner in the poster contest is Jacqueline Williams for her poster, All United Voting. And she is a student in 12th grade at Suncoast Polytechnical High School. So, Jacqueline.
We'll do a group photo, so if she, yes, all together. So if she wants to just, yes.
The second place winner who could not be here tonight is Vito Segroy, who is a student in 10th grade at Riverview High School. The first place winner, and I have to tell you, the third place winner gets $200, the second place winner gets $300, and the first place winner gets $500. And the recipient of that in the poster contest is Aliciana Harvey Lopez, who is a 12th grade student at Pineview High School. This is for you. And while she's walking over there, I will show you her poster. This is her poster. Okay, the essay contest. The third place winner, a student at Pineview in grade 10, is Catherine Domian. The second place winner, and believe me, the judging was blind. We did not know the names of the students, but the second place winner happens to be Catherine's sister, Addison Domian. And Addison is a student at Venice High School in grade 12. And the first place winner, winning $500, is Hayden Haney, who is a Venice High School student in grade 10. Thank you.
Thank you for the partnership with the League of Women Voters. Appreciate your support of our students, and let's give another round of applause in recognition of those students that won the contest this evening. So we're moving on. Superintendent Connor, to your report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and what a wonderful way to begin a meeting where we get to celebrate students. Thank you, Ethan, for being the student representative. Thank you to all of our performers tonight and for our winners tonight. It's just refreshing to have students in the boardroom, right? Tonight, as we begin the superintendent's report, and as I wait for them to pull that up onto the screen, I have a couple of consent agenda items that we'd like to highlight. I want to thank our HR team for bringing forth an affiliation agreement with the University of Phoenix to really expand our university partnerships and making sure that we have as many interns in our schools as possible, not only to help facilitate their professional learning and to get them acquainted to the teaching profession through real life practicum, but to really use it as a recruiting ground. We want those interns to come to us and learn, and then in turn help us in the school district and find roots here in Sarasota County. So this agreement will help us in that in terms of recruiting more interns to our school district, and hopefully it will pay off dividends in the future. The second item is consent agenda item number 10, which is the approval of the MOU between the University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee, and the School Board of Sarasota County. This agreement is really kind of the brainchild of the Hensons. If you don't know Mary and Joe Henson, they are great contributors to our district and really want to support our students, especially in our Title I settings. And this initiative works in partnership with USF. I'm trying to work on my screen here, see if I can get the PowerPoint to move. There we go. Or you'll have to click.
Oh. All right, I got it.
That's 9.
There we go.
But this particular partnership is really focused in on Tuttle Elementary, Goshio, Booker Middle Schools, and the program is designed to strengthen students' reading interest and their attitudes towards learning, and they'll be using an inquiry-based experiential learning model and really taking an inventory of how students are building that stamina and building through mentorship their attitudes become more positive towards reading and learning. So we're excited about that particular partnership. As always, we love to celebrate our teachers and our students and our staff and all of our stakeholders within our Sarasota County Schools community. And tonight is no different. We first want to recognize Riverview High School and Sarasota High School for winning the Florida State Swimming Championship. Riverview had their high school girls, and the Sarasota High School had the boys earn their state winning swimming championship this year. Congratulations to those schools. And congratulations to Henry Zhou, who on his recent selection as the winner of the Be More Fun Entrepreneurial Challenge, sponsored by the National Society of High School Scholars. After attaining finalist status over the summer, Henry recently pitched his Smart Volley automatic fire extinguisher prototype to a panel of judges in Atlanta, where he received the top recognition and earned himself a $10,000 reward. Congratulations to Henry. And we get to highlight several of our schools for earning the AP College Board for honor roll for the 22-23 school year. So congratulations to Pineview, Suncoast Polytech, Sarasota Military Academy, and Venice High School. The AP Scholar Honor Roll recognizes schools who have done an outstanding work to encourage more students to take AP courses and that support those students on their path to college. Congratulations. And I want to take just a moment, and I don't believe he's here tonight, but we had a great celebration with Mr. Cantis right before the holiday break. Mr. Cantis has served in Sarasota County for 19 years with an educational career of over 40 years, and he is retiring. unfortunately for us, but good for him. And we just want to express our deepest gratitude for the invaluable contributions that he's positively impacted this district. He has served faithfully in his role, and we thank him for all of his service. And we wish you well in your retirement, Mr. Cantis, and have fun on the golf course or at the beach, wherever you're going to be. We'll be missing you. Thank you. And I want to proudly announce that Dr. LaShawn Frost, who is our principal at Booker Middle School, has been named the Board of Directors President for the Art School Network. So congratulations to her. Under Dr. Frost's dynamic leadership, Sarasota County is set to make history by hosting the 2025 National Art School Networks Conference. And it'll be the first time nationwide that it's ever been hosted at a middle school. So that is great. Congratulations to Dr. Frost and Booker Middle School. And before the break, we had the privilege of getting to announce the Teacher of the Year finalists for Sarasota County. What a wonderful day it was to get on the bus and get out there and surprise these teachers. So we want to congratulate 3 of our teachers, Ms. Ronique Major from Emma Booker Elementary School, Ms. Haley Brown from Pineview School, and Dennis Penna from Northport High School, who have been named our Teacher of the Year finalists. Coming up this month, we'll be, in December, we'll be celebrating and selecting our Sarasota County Teacher of the Year, and we look forward to that event. And lastly, I just want to share an interesting thing that's happening in our schools. The author of Finding Gobi is visiting Tatum Elementary School. And what's really interesting about this particular author is it's a heartwarming story that's actually true, where it's centered around Dion coming across the Gobi while running a marathon in China, found a dog and created this quick friendship with the dog, and then lost the dog, and then had a viral internet search campaign that just went all around the world to help her find the dog. And they ended up finding it's an inspirational story, and it's actually leading to a production of a Hollywood movie to be released in 24-25. So, and the author's coming here to Sarasota and visiting our students at Tatum Ridge Elementary. So good for you, and excited for that to happen. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Superintendent Connor. Moving on to hearing of citizens, each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. When the timer flashes yellow, 1 minute remains, and you need to begin to summarize. You must stop speaking when the buzzer rings. Please note that respect for divergent viewpoints and civility will be shown at every board meeting. Whether you agree with the speaker, whether you agree or disagree, you should listen politely and respectfully without making any sounds of approval or disapproval, including clapping. I recognize there's a lot of passion and emotion with the decisions that come before this board and the impact they have on our students, families, staff, and community. As such, I believe it is important that we afford the opportunity for every speaker to be heard. To my fellow board members, any comments during hearing of citizens that you would like to respond to will take place at the conclusion of public comment. My request is that when you respond, you keep it to the issues that have been brought forward and refrain from directing it to any individual of the public. Per state statute 1001.3723, anyone causing a disruption will first be given a warning, and if the conduct does not stop, you will be removed from the chambers. I would like also to add to this, I'm requesting that and welcoming everyone to address me as the chair, and keep your comments within the purview of the board's agenda, and please refrain from personalizing to any board members or anyone in the audience. And my goal, and in line with our board protocols, is that we have a chamber that reflects what we want to see in our classrooms and the decorum we expect and want to model for students. students. So I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Jill Lewis-Spector to the podium, followed by Paulina Testerman, and on deck would be Mary Holmes.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Chair, Madam Rose. I wanted to talk about the Library and Media Center's materials evaluation, about the selection and objection to use those materials. I am the chair of the statewide League Education Action Team and have had opportunity the past several months to look at the different proposals that each district is submitting to their communities for evaluating the books and the materials that students have access to. And I want to say that I am absolutely delighted with the quality of the process and the proposal that's been put forth. I've seen the draft only, not the final document yet, but it really reflects serious thought about what is being asked of by the State Department of Education, and a lot of good things were in the document that I saw. The first thing that I thought was really important was in the introduction. The document states that it's important that the materials represent different points of view, and we know how important that is. It also mentions that parents and guardians have the right to opt students out of access to school or classroom libraries. And this is critical because the League of Women Voters believes that no single parent should make the decision for all parents in terms of what their children can or cannot read. There were some good points that were made regarding content of materials, and it included the reader's interest, the accuracy of the content, the reputation of the author or producer, that it represents different points of view, that objections to materials are not based on sexual content, and that those objections are going to remain on the shelves through the entire formal evaluation process or challenge process. So I thought that was important. And that the public is going to get notice of all the meetings of the review committee. And I loved that the document said that material, when you're considering whether it's harmful to minors, taken as a whole, the material is without serious literacy or literary artistic value. So I think that's important. I would like to suggest that a student be added to the committee, okay? And I also am a little bit concerned that you say the material shouldn't be biased. Well, how do we know if it's biased? Different people have different ideas about what bias is. I also thought that in terms of the process, some good points were made, and the process is clear, and I thank you for the work that's been done on that document.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis-Spector. Welcome, Paulina Testerman.
Good evening. My name is Paulina Testerman. I still have two children who attend Sarasota County Public Schools. Today I'm going to discuss media specialists. If you're old school like me, you will probably remember that title as what we used to refer to as librarians. And for the purpose of my conversation, I'm going to refer to librarians so our community understands who we're talking about. Before 2010, Sarasota schools had many librarians. Librarians had to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree in library sciences. Librarians' expertise went far beyond the Dewey Decimal System. Librarians were trained in reading lexile levels, developmental appropriateness of books, research methodology, and information technology. Sadly, in 2010, Sarasota County schools cut their elementary school librarians. 3 short years later, in 2013, Sarasota removed the last 12 librarians from our middle schools and high schools. Parents, if you don't know this, then you're not paying attention. Your children's schools no longer have librarians. I was lucky enough that both of my children had Mrs. McQueen at their elementary school. Mrs. McQueen was amazing, and I often referred to her as my kids' book dealer. Mrs. McQueen knew exactly what genre of books my kids loved and what their reading level was. When my son was disappointed that the school didn't have the newest Magic Treehouse book, Mrs. McQueen put in a request to get it. Both of my kids were celebrated in elementary school for their excelled level of reading. My son is graduating Sarasota High School this year, and while he's going to kill me, he currently has a 4.6 GPA. Wherever you are, Mrs. McQueen, I need you to know that you are an integral part of my children's love of reading and their scholastic success, and I am forever grateful for that. Many of you may ask, why did our schools fire all of the librarians? And the answer isn't surprising. Sarasota schools fired all the librarians because we couldn't afford to keep them. After all, Florida is 44th in the United States for public education funding. So it should come as no surprise that currently in Sarasota County schools, 39% of third graders rank below level in English language arts. How is anyone surprised that if we remove experts in their fields, we will ultimately pay the consequences? If you fire your mechanic, don't complain that your car doesn't start. If you fire your accountant, don't complain that your taxes aren't filed. If you fire your doctor, don't complain that you're sick. And if you fire dedicated, educated, and compassionate media specialists, don't complain that students can't read. Is this our school board's fault? Maybe, maybe not. Is it the voters' fault? That's what I believe. For electing politicians who are systematically underfunding and destroying public education. An uneducated populace is easier to control, and politicians are practically giddy with excitement over the idea that they can control a society that can't even read. I encourage our parents in our community and anyone who can vote to vote for politicians who are more concerned about funding public education than they are about robbing our children. Please, parents, we need your vote.
Please, no clapping, please. Thank you, Paulina Testerman. Welcome, Mary Holmes.
Superintendent Connor, excuse me, members of the board. My name is Mary Holmes, and I'm still a veteran ESC teacher. I'm here tonight to discuss the crisis we're currently experiencing in Sarasota. This crisis expands beyond the confines of our classrooms, but the effects of these issues go way beyond trickling down into our classrooms. I believe it's more like a torrential downpour. Before we can discuss more popular topics such as gains in reading or financial allocations for students, I think it's critical that we identify and try to find strategies for addressing very real obstacles that many of our ESE students and staff are facing. Nearly every day feels like triage. Like my colleagues and I are simply putting Band-Aids on the struggles of our students. Each day, my colleagues and I are faced with a high number of students whose behavior could best be characterized as highly disrespectful, aggressive to the point of violent, seemingly indifferent to the idea of any consequence. They have nearly zero interpersonal or relationship building skills. The last thing on the minds of these children is academic achievement, cooperation, or frequently even making an effort. These students are also among the bravest and strongest children I have ever encountered. They deal with challenges that most adults or people who deal with only regular education could possibly fathom. Most of the general public cannot possibly imagine the lives these kids endure daily. Imagine being 11 years old and already living in your third or fourth foster home, living with your grandparents because your parents are incarcerated, barely seeing your parents because one or both of them work multiple jobs, not having had anything to eat since your free lunch at school the day before. This happens daily in our county schools. I'm certainly not about to suggest that we can solve these social issues at a school board meeting, but before we can move forward, we've got to understand what the reality is for many of our children. Rather than waste time dealing with complete non-issues like parental rights ever being denied, porn being offered at every school library, teachers being groomers of students, the over-sexualization of children, etc., we have genuine, serious work to do. By the way, the vast majority of information, including access to what some parents would perceive as inappropriate, is readily available on most any child's phone, regardless of parental controls. Inappropriate behavior is near epidemic. We are not without hope, though. We have the opportunity to increase funding for early childhood education. We must increase mental health care for our students. We need to meet our special needs kids where they are right now. So much time and energy got wasted on unnecessary political bullshit. Excuse me, that was not intentional.
Thank you, Ms. Holmes.
There comes a point in time when we have to...
Ms. Holmes, thank you very much. Thank you. Marjorie Peter, please, followed by Sebastian Gerstel with Carol Lerner on deck.
Hello, Superintendent, Madam Chair, board members. Marjorie Peter checking in once again, resident since '87 and the parent of 3 students who've graduated from the district. In this room, we have many things for which we are all thankful. And I would guess that almost everyone in this room cares about quality public education opportunities and is therefore thankful for our A-rated public school district. This leads me to a question that's been bothering me. Why is the majority of the board tinkering with policies and procedures that allowed us to receive that coveted rating? And why are you trying to find solutions in search of a problem? For example, why did you propose candidates for the superintendent position who had extremely limited educational background? Why did you try to hire the terribly inexperienced Vermilion Consulting to review our curriculum and hiring practices? Because surely by now, you've read about the school district in Pennsylvania that cannot wait to fire Mr. Adams. Why did you feel it necessary to spend our money on an out-of-sequence voter redistricting plan? And although it was really well constructed, as we heard earlier, I was sorry that you had to spend a lot of time in the workshop today to once again review policy regarding book challenges. Many in this community feel that this might be a coldly calculated move to try to disrupt our public school system, to drive students to for-profit charter schools and for-profit religious schools. It's often a question of follow the money. Voters have witnessed your actions and can draw their conclusions. Fortunately for our students, voters have a desire to keep this A-rated public school system because they know makes economic and social sense. They want the manufactured turmoil to stop. Please stop manufacturing these solutions and start investing in our quality public education. Voters have long memories of the potential damage you appear to be attempting to inflict. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Marjorie Peter. Sebastian Gerstel, please. Once again, followed by Carol Lerner with Robin Williams on deck.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm Sebastian Gerstel, a junior at Riverview High School. First, I would like to congratulate you, Mrs. Rose, for the position of chair, and Mr. Enos on your new assignments. I'd also like to thank Ms. Ziegler for her role in this past year. It has certainly been anything but normal, some of these meetings. But as we signal the beginning of a new board organization, we also close off a year since the inauguration of Mrs. Ziegler, Mr. Enos, and Mrs. Marnelli. And such an occasion deserves an acknowledgement of the great accomplishments that this board majority has achieved in putting students, teachers, parents, and taxpayers first. Over the past year, this board has delivered on key promises designed to bring Sarasota schools back to being institutions of respect and academic excellence. On day one, the termination of ineffective former Superintendent Asplin was activated, and since then, this board, in full force, has delivered significant reforms to address concerns held by stakeholders for years. This board delivered a historic 6% raise for teachers, delivered bus driver raises to get buses driving on time, and began to take the very needed care of our exceptional students so that every student gets the education they're entitled to every day. But that's not all. This board made it clear that parents are in charge when you allowed parents to walk their kids to class, and when you made it clear that we are changing course when you paused the disastrous strategic plan, removed destructive SCL language, exposed illegal gender guidelines, and when you voted to officially destroy the illegal equity committee and department. Additionally, this board set a new standard for Sarasota schools when you hired Superintendent Connor. Now, Mr. Connor, you and I started off with some questions that you probably weren't expecting from a 16-year-old during the Citizens Committee phase. But now that you're here, it is clear that you are delivering for Sarasota students. And you've already accomplished so much in just such a short time. But there is still, as we've heard today, and as we all know, it's far too well, that there is still plenty more to be done. So thank you all for your work.
Thank you. Carol Lerner, welcome to the podium, please, followed by Robin Williams with Michelle Weddle on deck, or Michael Weddle, excuse me. Please.
Good evening, Board. My name is Carol Lerner. I'm here very often. I listened to the workshop proceedings today, and I found them very interesting. The ESE report, I thought that was a really very important first step. As I've mentioned a number of times, I spent almost 30 years of my career in a special education, working in a special education school district in New Jersey. I think what Mary Holmes said today, I really think that has to be listened to, because so many of the issues here, so many of the issues that I found in the district that I worked in New Jersey, has to do with poverty, and then expressions of behavior and such that often comes out of that. So I really think that's a very critical thing to look at. The workshop today was filled with many policy recommendations and revisions. Some of the revisions I thought were fine. Unfortunately, others were dictated by very bad legislation that was passed by an out-of-control legislature that thinks it is their right to take away rights from local school districts like ours, and to force districts to implement bad policies like censorship of instruction and media materials. That means that one can have the very best, well-intended school district, like we have here, but hands are tied to wrong, reactionary policies. Tom Edwards raised a good point in the workshop about the ambiguity in the instruction and media material policies. Here's one example of this ambiguity from the proposed policies on media materials, and I understand that there was an effort to moderate as much as possible what the state legislated. But in section 3D2, it excludes books and materials, quote, depicting or describing sexual conduct, unquote. What does that mean? Are the sexual tensions depicted in Jane Austen's Emma, is that sexual? Is that describing sexual conduct? And does the allegation of rape in Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird knock it off the list, despite this book being on every list of indispensable books for high school students to read? Another indispensable book, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, is that off the list? That has definite LGBTQ themes in it. In fact, in a list compiled by Cambridge of the 10 best English literature books, all of which I have read and enjoyed, I could see a reason that every single one of them could be knocked off.
Robin Williams, welcome.
Sarasota was recently named Florida's #1 school district. Congratulations to teachers, staff, administrators, Mr. Connor, Dr. Foster, and Dr. Asplin for their dedication and hard work. Thank you for negotiating a contract with pay raises for our underpaid and overworked teaching staff. But honestly, teachers' salaries in Florida should be doubled so they can keep up with Florida's expensive housing and insurance costs. Though Sarasota was named #1, due to political forces outside of the district's control in Tallahassee, it may be a Pyrrhic victory, as all of Florida's public education is sustaining catastrophic hits, both financially as a result of HB1 and for chilling restrictions on academic freedom. At this morning's workshop, policies 4.20 and 2.2 are seeing problematic changes due to concerns about compliance with recently passed state statutes that threaten teachers and staff with third-degree felonies for charges for using books with sex mention in if someone objects. A book of literary merit with sexual incidents is not pornography. We had a workable policy. If you don't want your child to read something, you'd let the school know and they wouldn't have access. Were there still objections, a book could remain till a challenge process was completed. Now, with any objection to material dealing with sex, the item would be removed in 5 days district-wide till the challenge process is completed. Those who push book bans in schools are trying to ban books in county libraries. While these extremists espouse parental rights, we're suffering the imposition of their beliefs on everyone. As a member of the Jewish community, book bans are anathema. There have been attempts to ban editions of Anne Frank's diary in school districts. A member of my local synagogue is a Holocaust survivor whose babysitter was Anne Frank. It would compound her tragedy if Anne Frank's voice across generations is silenced in Florida due to the dogmatic intolerance of narrow-minded people. It's not the vile acts of the Nazis to which they object. It's Anne writing that she was in ecstasy about female nudes and kissing a girl. Banning books is a step well along the path to fascism. The Nazis attacked the gay community as well as Jews. Holocaust education is mandated in Florida, but we failed to heed its lessons. Local officials in Germany went along to protect themselves, and that's what's happening in school districts around Florida. There needs to be collective resistance from groups like the School Board Association, Florida Association of Districts, School Superintendents, the SCTA, the NEA, the AFT, and the public. There's been a highly organized right-wing effort to ban books in Florida and other states, including Ms. Ziegler and Ms. Bruni's Moms for Liberty, the Leadership Institute, and other extremist think tanks, along with funding from right-wing millionaires.
Ms. Williams, please do not personalize. We're going to have decorum in the board. I will give you your time. I'm asking you to not personalize, please.
For the fallout. Protect democracy. Don't ban books.
Michael Weddle, welcome to the podium, please, followed by David Tanner, followed by Sheila Van Ness.
Is this turned on again, or are we still muted?
I'm sorry?
Are we still muted, or is this turned on again? Okay. Thank you. Thank you to the board, the superintendent. I have a brief statement to read from the Minnesota ASALA, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Before I read this, I just, on a personal note, I want to say that 4 weeks ago, I again criticized the 2022 decision by the district to hush up Ruby Bridges' Walk to School Day. I believe that if you criticize bad behavior, you have to be double quick to praise good behavior. And I've already thanked Mr. Connor for the support that the walk got this year. So this is from ASALA. On November 14th, meaning 2 weeks ago, 100 students and parents walked to Bay Haven School with full support of the district, reenacting a walk of 6-year-old Ruby Bridges to school in Louisiana, despite being unwelcome in what was then an all-white school. Walk to School Day is not just an African American history thing, but a national celebration of education and the importance of overcoming obstacles to education for all children and our commitment to providing all children with the best education possible. Wouldn't it be beautiful if PTOs and students across the district on November 14th celebrated the value of standing up for the importance of education at every elementary school? For a 6-year-old Ruby Bridges, it wasn't just about that one day. For a year, she was the only student in her class, one-to-one with a teacher, because all the parents in the school would not let their white children be in the same room with her. She only ate food from home because people at the school threatened to poison her. How far we have come since then. It wasn't that long ago. But the bravery and resilience of that 6-year-old girl can inspire all of us to continue advocating for a better education for all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weddle. David Turner, welcome to the podium, please, followed by Sheila Van Ness, with Herbert Levine on deck, please.
Good evening. I will give you a brief break from politics, and I have a business matter that we have been trying to get resolved. I am here on behalf of Direct General Auto Insurance. There was a bus accident that happened on May 17th, 2023 at Tuttle Avenue and State Road 780. We have exhausted all means, including I think our attorney's office has contacted your office. We have exhausted all means of locating parents to notify them of the global settlement that is being set up for any of the children that may have been injured. We've gone to their houses, we have sent letters, we've made phone calls, we have asked the principal for assistance. I know that, as I said to the attorney there, I know they've reached out to your office as well. So we're here to put a letter on record that if any of the parents of these children on the bus have any injuries or any information that they need the insurance company to know about, to please reach out to the following people. Dear parent or guardian, we hope this letter finds you and your family well. Our company has been hired to contact the parents or guardians of the students of Sarasota School Bus 2005, which was involved in an accident on May 17, 2023 at Tuttle Avenue and State Road 780. One of the vehicles involved was insured with Direct General Insurance Company, policy 2017-600-171. They are requesting that we provide you with the contact information for the attorneys organizing a global settlement conference. We understand that most of the minor occupants were not injured. However, to make sure that everyone is properly considered, please contact the below individuals to advise them either way if they were injured or not. Kaylee Smith or Nathan Cash at Shelton McKean.
Please do not share minor names.
No, these are not minor names, ma'am. These are the attorneys that are trying to set it up. Yeah, no, I'm not reading. I have a list of the names, and you know.
Thank you.
I'm okay with dialoguing here.
Proceed. Thank
yes.
you.
Kaylee Smith and Nathan Cash of Shelton McKean, ksmith at sheltonmckean.com or ncash at sheltonmckean.com. David Tanner, myself at david.tanner at yoursiu.com, or the adjuster lauren.miller at ngic.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Superintendent Connor, if you can have someone follow up, please.
Yes, we'll have Mr. Dumas connect.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Superintendent Connor, and the board. I'm here this evening. My name is Dr. Sheila Van Ness. I'm a retiree in the area and a long-term educator. And I'm here to speak on behalf of students' civil rights. When it comes to the banning of books, which is a very dangerous step to take in a democratic society, I would like to remind the board that the youth in our schools are American citizens, and as such, they hold pride in having freedom and having civil rights. And let's not step on their rights to develop themselves as adults. Remember that at the age of 18, they will make decisions about education, about their lifestyle, about their employment, and about relationships. So it becomes really important for them to develop their knowledge base and their understanding of the world that they are going to inherit. So for that reason, I hope that you take all due seriousness and stop this move toward banning books in our district. We should be very proud of being #1 in the state, but the only way that we retain that is if our students are free to develop and move toward adulthood in a systematic way, full knowledge of the world without feeding them pablum when they are ready to eat steak. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Van Ness. We welcome Herbert Levine to the podium, followed by Ms. Barker and Richard Stammer on deck, please.
Good evening, and thank you, Chairman Rose, for this opportunity to address the school board. My name is Dr. Herbert Levine. I'm a retired college English professor, but I'm not here to talk in that capacity. I'm here to talk in the capacity of a grandfather who has a 12-year-old who has decided to transition from one gender to another. And I asked my granddaughter, Finley, I asked her mother if she had read any books about trans teenagers or people becoming trans as a teen, and it was very clear from the answer I got that no, she had never read any such books, but that when she was 9 years old, she began to feel like she was not at home in her body, and she began talking about not wanting to have just a choice between male and female, but she wanted to be as she thought, pansexual. She didn't know what that meant, but she was looking towards becoming somebody different than she is. The role, I think, of those books on LGBTQ subjects is not for the child. The child knows what they want to do because something their body and their psyche and their soul is telling them. The role of those books is to help the community develop empathy for what those people are going through who make this very difficult choice to become trans. And so I think that there is a fear abroad in the land that if we allow this kind of literature to prevail to be available in our schools, that it will influence people to become gay or lesbian, to become trans. And I want to just say that that's a logical fallacy, that does not accord with the reality, that these decisions come from deep within a person, and that the books need to be there so that we all know what they are going through, so that we can empathize and be the kind of community that can support each one of our students in our schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Levine. Welcome Liz Barker to the podium, please, followed by Richard Stammer.
Superintendent Connor, board members, good evening. I'm Liz Barker, mom of 4 children in Sarasota County Public Schools, former school psychologist, candidate for school board, and president of the PTO at Lakeview Elementary School. This evening, I'm asking the board to consider revising the threat assessment and suicide prevention policies proposed at this morning's workshop. I spent a great deal of time as a school psychologist on threat assessment teams. The proposed policy for school-based threat management teams was generally in line with best practice with regard to the composition of the team, documentation, parental notification, and decision-making. I'm concerned, however, that prevention, which is a crucial component, was largely missing. The prevention and mitigation of threats and violence is just as important as the policy of dealing with a threat once it has occurred. Research indicates that the most effective prevention strategies rely on relationships and connectedness among students, staff members, parents, and the community. Students who report feeling a sense of belonging and who are provided with strong social and emotional support are much less likely to engage in threatening or violent behaviors. In light of all this, I was also concerned to see the general watering down of our suicide prevention policy. Having served on crisis response teams after a student suicide, attended funerals, and triaged countless students, I am making the following recommendations to bring our policy in line with best practice. 1, all school personnel and students should be expected to create a school culture of respect and support where students are comfortable seeking help for themselves or a friend. 2, all parents need to be educated on a regular basis about the warning signs and risk factors for suicide so they are better able to access professional help if necessary. 3, our suicide prevention policy should acknowledge our especially vulnerable youth populations, including but not limited to LGBTQ youth, youth in out-of-home settings, American Indian youth, and students with medical conditions or disabilities. 4, a district-level suicide prevention task force consisting of parents, teachers, school-based mental health professionals, administrators, and representatives from community organizations should be formed to provide advice to district administration and the school board regarding ever-evolving best practices in suicide prevention. And 5, detailed post-vention procedures, should a suicide occur, should be added to our policy. This is especially important to reduce potential contagion through reporting on social media. Thank you for considering these updates to the proposed policies in order to ensure that every student has access to a safe, healthy, and effective learning environment.
Thank you, Mrs. Barker. Richard Stammer, welcome to the podium, please, followed by August Ray.
Thank you. I've already introduced myself. So I'd just like to first congratulate Chairwoman Rose and Tim Enos on your new positions. You have my best wishes. I can only talk about things that I personally experienced in my life. And regarding banned books, this past week, I've been reading so many newspaper articles that say that Florida is leading the nation in banned books. And Sarasota is frequently mentioned as leading Florida in banned books. And some people may find that a good thing. I find it a very sad and depressing thing. I grew up reading Slaughterhouse-Five. I grew up reading Fahrenheit 451, and I grew up reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, the horror. And I have to tell you that that book had a great impact on me as I saw a black man, a slave, form a loving, non-sexual relationship with a young white boy, to the point where this young white boy stood up against the powers that be, would not turn Jim in, and just basically said to himself and the reader, well, I guess I'll just go to hell. That was an incredible impact on me. I feel children need to be challenged, and they need to be challenged along with compassionate, informed, and respectful teachers who can help them read and be introduced to these challenging ideas. One thing I never had, in 12 years of public education, I never once had access to a book about LGBTQ. Not once. And I have always regretted that. I felt I would have been a better person if I had had access to books that explore different lifestyle. I would have been a less prejudicial person if I had had access to those books. So I would really just like to ask this board to take the lead in stopping and not making a bad situation worse when it comes to banning books. I, for one, believe the tide is turning and this mania will eventually stop. And I'm frankly looking forward toward 2024 to help ensure with others that we bring an end to this horrible anti-intellectual crusade. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. August Ray, Xander Maurice on standby, followed by Sebastian Martinez on deck, please. Welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is August Ray, and I'm a senior at Sarasota High School. As chair, your job is to represent all students, not just the ones you deem fit. The only candidate I trusted to do that was Tom Edwards. I am disappointed by the decisions made today. It is with this disappointment that I would like to make one final statement addressed to the board. On behalf of myself and many of my peers, we feel you have failed in choosing a qualified school board chair and vice chair.
Thank you, sir. Xander Maurice, please, followed by Sebastian Martinez with Jennifer Reichert on deck. Welcome, Xander.
I just want to note that if today's decision was made by Sarasota County students and teachers, Tom Edwards would be our school board chair, and that's an important thing to note. Also, Karen Rose, starting off your chairmanship with censorship is like a little on the nose.
Sebastian Martinez, please, followed by Jennifer Reichert.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Mr. Superintendent. My name is Sebastian Martinez, and I'm a graduate of Booker High School. And today I wanted to talk about civic engagement and how we can improve it in our schools. Today, my speech was really inspired by three things: Sebastian Gerstel's past speech on the importance of civic education and expanding on it, my own personal work and passion that I've dedicated years of my life to and will continue to do, and a recent post from Ms. Rose's campaign that says, "Students, stand for the pledge because good citizenship is the core of a public education," and I couldn't agree more. When I was taught by my parents and educators about being a good citizen was to abide by laws, pay my taxes, and to vote. I was also taught to respect others, to learn my rights, to be educated on everyday issues, which I believe is the most important. Being educated to go out and vote and to know and understand what and who you are voting for. I could go on endlessly about civic education, how we fall short time and time again, but I believe our district could and should be promoting good citizenship and civic engagement. Our students lead wherever they are. Be it in education, test scores, or youth voter engagement, our students lead, and our district should too. We should work closely with the Supervisor of Elections Office and have them coming into our schools multiple times throughout the year, more than they are right now, to incentivize our students or encourage them to become poll workers. Engage with our students and talk to them about the importance and responsibility of voting, the history of voting rights, or anything at all. We could also be having students trained by the SOE or SOE staff coming to football or basketball games or any sporting events and have voter registration tables set up to make sure all of our families are registered and active voters. Active and engaged voters and community members are more likely to contact their elected officials so you can know and understand the issues important to them, to be educated and follow along with the government bodies that make decisions about them, in this instance, education. With the help of our district, we can ensure that our students and community are registered, engaged, active voters, and productive members of our society. I'd also personally like to see our district provide transportation to our community and eligible students as a field trip or after-school service. We should be doing everything in our power to hear from our community, get their input, and listen to their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martinez. Jennifer Reichert, please. And I apologize, I'm not sure this is Jack. It looks like Tungon, if you could pronounce your name when you come up, with Bill Neese on deck. Mrs. Reichert, please proceed.
Good evening, Jennifer Reichert. I just wanted to say it's really nice to hear students come up and speak and advocate for themselves. I can only pray that my son is able to do that someday. I wanted to come up here this evening to say thank you for the unanimous vote to hire a consulting agency that conducted the comprehensive review of our exceptional student education program. I know you found it humbling, and I recognize it is not easy to intentionally invite a dissection of an especially important program in our school district. I must repeat several of the shocking and frankly heartbreaking areas that were called out in the report that should concern every public school family, whether they have children in the program or not. The ELA and math achievement gaps are staggering. It was even labeled as unacceptable by the consultants. There has been no narrowing of this gap in over 5 years. That is going to haunt me because I made the choice to move my family here. Sarasota, A-rated school. I should have dug in further. I found out designated general education funds are currently being transferred to fund ESE programs. That's just weird, of concern. There are lots of IDEA grants available. Are we just not applying for them, or we're just missing out on opportunities? Our chief academic officer is not overseeing the academic interventions of our students identified as Tier 2 and Tier 3. Academic achievement pursuits should be equal for all students, equally important. In a survey, it was found that teachers and other staff do not feel equipped to work with our students that have behavior challenges. Why? Why are we asking them to work with these challenging students when they don't even know how to? So I'm often stuck working through my own challenges and advocating for my child. But the report that we heard today makes me realize these are so much bigger than what me and my family is facing. After listening to the presentation and comments at the workshop, I know we all agree our challenge is in the lack of the procedures, sound procedures.
Ooh. Thank you, Mrs. Reichert.
Thank you.
Jack, looks like at the risk of mispronouncing, Tunjon. It's like Tunconco. Do we have a Jack? Okay, put that aside. Bill Neese, welcome to the podium, please, followed by Esther Rockwell.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Neese. I do have grandchildren in the school district, as I've said before. And actually, we homeschooled, but that was under the guidance of the school board at the appropriate time with my own children. Now in this day and age, sitting on that podium, sometimes I think probably you wonder sometimes whether you should duck or pucker, as the old saying goes. And with that understanding, I'm here to maybe throw a little kiss towards you. In saying that I appreciate an honest evaluation that is, and a board that is willing to have an honest evaluation come and do work that is difficult. Nobody likes to hear difficult things. But people who are mature will listen to those suggestions, and they will proceed to make policy that will implement those changes into a district. And I believe that's your full intention. And so I compliment you on a willingness to take those risks that expose our weaknesses, but project a change. And that's what we're all looking for. We're not looking to stay in the past. Staying in the past is not a solution. Looking at a car with a flat tire and 5 people come by and say it's a flat tire changes nothing. How about give me a jack? How about give me a hand? So, you know, sometimes we feel like rocks are being thrown at us for one thing or the other. But I see what you guys are doing. That might be a good rock to build the building of the new school that we're trying to build. A new system, a new way, having positive, constructive development in our district. And I believe that is the direction that you're going. And there are many issues, but there are also those who want to build solutions. And that's what I believe you are doing with a great staff and people that Mr. Connor has brought in to enhance and develop this school district. We are heading in the right direction, and I'm one here, like I said, to throw you a kiss.
Thank you, Mr. Neese. Esther Rockwell, welcome to the podium, please.
Hi, my name is Esther Rockwell, and I've been living in Sarasota for 38 years. My youngest son graduated from Riverview. I want to commend you for all the work that you've done. I know you've received a lot of negative reporting, but unfortunately, they don't see what's going behind and what you have actually accomplished. And you have done a lot, considering you had a lot of negative things that you acquired. But it grieves me to hear people come up to you and say that they want to see pornographic books in the schools, thinking that what they see will better themselves. I have been fighting pornography for over 50 years, and I can tell you that detectives and police have stated that when they sodomize a child, they use pornographic books in order to reduce their inhibitions from committing those acts with them. And many children have been sodomized as young as 6 months old. Please do not fall for the euphemism that they use by saying it's banning books. We have never, ever allowed pornographic books allowed in the libraries or in the schools. Don't let it start now. because that's the beginning of what children become addicted to. And once they become addicted to it, any kind of addiction is bad, whether it's drugs or drinking or whatever. It becomes a part of their system that they will work without. And it's amazing how drugs have to be taken internally in order for them to get the high. But with pornography, they can release it in their brain whenever they choose. And it's worse than a drug. So don't fall for these people that try to pass it on to you. Many liberals are prone to being able to speak out, but conservatives are not. That's why you hear mostly from the negatives. Please don't listen to them. They are not doing you a favor, and they're not doing us a favor. Use common sense, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Rockwell. That concludes, public comment, and I'm at the point where it looks like Mr. Edwards, are you wanting to make a comment? I think anyone else have a comment following public comment? I'm going to go ahead and just state for the record, I think it's extraordinarily important that this board has not banned any books. There's a tremendous amount of public comment, and of course we welcome it, but it has the potential to lead a perception in this community or at large that this board has banned a book. I'm going to say it again. This board sitting on this dais has not banned a book in Sarasota County. So please note that. I'd also like to state that we are together, all 5 board members, and focused in on exceptional student education, and we hear you. We hear you. And I can assure you that it is a priority that everyone, from Mr. Edwards to Mrs. Marinelli, have substantiated, and I know and have great confidence that we have the leadership to tackle that. In Superintendent Connor and sitting in this room. I also understand that the previous superintendents, that I respect your mourning of transitioning of superintendents. I'm going to stand by. I'm extraordinarily proud of the skills of the staff in this district and the work that the teachers do and the A rating. I'm especially proud of that. I will not stand by for any superintendent, and have not in my history in this district, or I've also held myself accountable. I also will not stand where you are yourself saying that grade 3, only 39% of those students, 39% of them can't read at grade level, which research tells you determines their academic success from that point on. So we are on an incredibly positive trajectory. We are data-driven for the first time in multiple years. We are research-driven, research-based, looking at the science of reading, focusing in on our weaknesses and being transparent with them. We have a tremendous amount to celebrate, but we have a tremendous amount of work to do. And I ask you to join us. Join with us, join with this board. This board is united in focusing in on moving all of our students to a level of success, hence every student every day. There's also a lot of conversation surrounding the needs of individual students, particularly students in reference to gender identity. We intentionally move to every student every day to assure that every single student in this school district is having their needs met. When those conversations, and of course we welcome them, what I want the public to know is that we are delivering and meeting the needs of every student. And if we aren't, I encourage you, I strongly encourage you to contact Superintendent Connor or anyone on this staff to say that there is a student in our district whose needs are not being met, whether it is relative to gender identity or any other issue. Because when you come week after week and you're saying those same things over and over again, the public is starting to believe that we aren't meeting the needs of students. We are. And if we aren't, and I encourage you, if there's a student that we don't know about, I encourage you to contact Superintendent Connor or any administrator sitting in this boardroom, because it is our intention. Again, we are united to make sure we meet the needs of students. So thank you very much, and I just want to say once again, and I especially want to recognize the work that we're doing in exceptional student education. That has been a weakness for multiple years. Those students have not had the progress that they deserve, and we are on a trajectory to deliver it. Thank you very much. We're moving on to Superintendent Connor, additions and corrections to the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. An addendum was added to item 6, the instructional and classified personnel report.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Connor. Looking for approval of the consent agenda as amended.
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I have a motion and a second, and we'll take a voice vote, starting with Mr. Edwards, please.
Yes.
Mr. Enos, are you still with us?
Yes.
Oh, good, good. Thank you, Mr. Enos. Mrs. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mrs. Marinelli?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, and the consent agenda as amended passes unanimously. Does anyone have any comment regarding the consent agenda?
No, ma'am.
Okay, seeing no comment, we'll move on to new business. Item number 16, that the construction services change orders be approved and or ratified as presented. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the construction services change orders be approved and or ratified as presented. Is there?
There's a motion and a second, and seeing no, is there a
Yeah,
comment?
I just wanted to, I know this was pulled, and I appreciate the superintendent putting it out there. I know that I believe this was pulled largely for the significant dollar amount next to it. Are there any additional, I mean, I know we talked about the prior one. Are there any additional comments we need to make?
No, just for transparency. Just want to make sure that everyone understands that this is for the renovation project at Sarasota High School, buildings 13 and 14. And this is really to get the project going. So when you initiate the project and you need to fund the project, you have to dump that money into this first change order. So this is change order 1, really just to allow us to begin utilizing that funding to do the work.
Thank you. And I want to say I appreciate us pulling this. We don't, sometimes $40 million is a lot of money, and just to go over it in consent agenda, I appreciate that. But I also, I want to give a special recognition to Mrs. Jane Dreger, who is the head of construction services, has an incredibly challenging job right now, especially in the midst of us building 3 schools, if you will, and to Mr. Jody Dumas for your guys' work. So thank you for keeping us abreast. And I know that you guys have prepared us for potential future change orders, but you guys are working very hard to keep it within budget. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Ziegler. Any further comments? Seeing none, we will move to a voice vote. Mr. Edwards, please.
Yes.
Mr. Enos.
Yes.
Mrs. Ziegler.
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli. Yes. And the chair votes yes. And item number 16, that the construction services change orders be approved, passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 17, that the board approve the changes to the instructional and classified bargaining agreements as presented. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the changes to the instructional and classified bargaining agreements as presented.
Second. And do we have any comment? Seeing none, I have a comment. I want to recognize the work that our staff has done to come to this agreement. I couldn't be more excited. It's phenomenal. This board unanimously, this board sitting up here on this dais for the second year in a row, last year offered, which was passed, a record record-breaking package raise in benefits historically to our very well-respected teachers and staff. This, again, is a record-breaking benefits package, and it shows the respect that this board has for our staff and the skills that you have and the quality that we want to recruit and retain. And I'm very thankful for that, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing this trend. So seeing no further comment, we'll call for a voice vote. Mr. Edwards, please.
Yes.
Mr. Enos.
Yes.
Mrs. Ziegler.
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, and it passes unanimously. We are now moving on to board member comments. And Mr. Edwards, do you have anything that you would like to share?
Sure, I appreciate that. There's been several comments tonight alluding to unanimous votes. And I want to acknowledge unanimous votes. A year ago, when this board was seated, I voted unanimous for the chair that time, and I voted tonight unanimous for the chair again. From my personal perspective, this was a year that our school district lost. We lost it because I look at a much larger picture than just my tenure on the board. I looked at a time period where there was drama around the superintendent. Then we went to an interim superintendent, and that interim superintendent brought us to the threshold of COVID, and we hired Dr. Asplin, and Dr. Asplin was here for 2 years of COVID, and then we terminated Dr. Asplin. And in that termination, we were presented with yet again another interim superintendent, by which I witnessed many hours and much time invested in ideas and suggestions while we were in an interim phase. I am so grateful that Mr. Connor is here, because it could have gone really bad. But it didn't. And I'm grateful that Mr. Connor was selected to be our superintendent. And he will lead, hopefully, for a time period of 5, 6, 10 years, because that's what this district needed. And what I am so frustrated with is that all of this conversation about procedures and all of the things that we lost, we didn't lose anything other than we made really bad choices along the way, and we got saddled with a pandemic. And no one, to the best of my ability, and I've viewed this for a long time, was intentionally trying to harm children or screw up processes or prevent good things from happening. But I voted unanimously tonight because all of that has to be in the past. It has to be behind us. And we have to stop talking about what we did 30 years ago and how it used to be, and be focused in on the future and the work that is necessary. That hard work that we saw today in that ESE presentation, where I pointed out almost all of that is across the board, and it's necessary across the board. So I'm looking forward to public comments of ideas and suggestions of how to catapult us there faster, how to come together with mentorships from the community, how to come together with volunteers from the community. Because if I sat here for the last 3 years and got the stuff thrown at me, I'm still fighting hard for those kids, for what's in the best interest of our students, our teachers, and our community. So join me.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you very much. It's been mentioned a lot today, and I think it's really kind of a, what's the right word? It's very symbolic almost in a way. And so I'm going back to I want to highlight the ESC consultant and the report that was done that we kicked us off today in our workshop. And the last year was indeed tumultuous. There has been a lot of change. And change is difficult and messy, and I, as chairing during change, was very hard. But there was a lot of, as was said today, and as the report came out too, I think I know we all agree, we have tremendous people inside this district with tremendous knowledge and passion and commitment. But for quite some time, we've had quite a few systems that are broken. And when it comes to the ESC piece and having the parent come up and talk, and I'm very grateful for this board and for the superintendent and for the staff to have leaned in and have the willingness to say, we've got to have a hard look at what we need to do to improve, because for too long, that willingness, at least at this level, and I'm not putting that on staff, hasn't been there. And that really is an impediment to progress. And to Mr. Edwards' point, that what was noted today is not just ESC. Some of these areas will absolutely allow us to improve beyond just that. But when I look at kind of what's been in the past, but it's there, we can lessons learned, but to not continue to reiterate and look at that as a negative, as a jab, but as an opportunity. And when I look at today as kind of a kickoff after completing one heck of a year, we're taking this next year with I think much more steady waters and a real opportunity. I am really, really impressed with some of the new leadership inside this district. Very impressed, and that includes the superintendent, who I know I did not vote for, and I told him, I said, I will love if I get to prove myself wrong. And so far, I'm really, really happy with a lot of the work that Mr. Connor has done. I know we have lots of hard decisions, and the goal of us, we don't always have to agree, but having the mutual respect that we are going to put everything forward in good faith effort to do what we believe is right for our district, for our students, for our families. And I know that there is a big district, and sometimes there's echo chambers of and sometimes there's incorrect information here. And I think, thank you, Mrs. Rose, for taking an opportunity we should call it the fact-checking section, to go back and clear the air, because it really doesn't, it's not about sides. It just doesn't really allow us to continue the progress forward. I think that, again, when I look at yes, the ESC report had some really major things in there, but I look at them as opportunities. I believe that the superintendent has viewed it that way. I know he and I have spoken about other issues that have come forward with ESC, and I know that there's speculation out there, and I just want to reassure people we are working on them. They are highest priority. They may not be coming out every day, writing posts or talking about it at the dais, but every issue that I know myself and this board have addressed in the past, particularly when it comes to ESC, have not gone by the wayside. They have been #1 priorities by way of policy. We've executed upon them, and some of them from an implementation process are still working through it, but a vast majority of them have been successful. Which brings me to the other aspect. If there are things that we have passed, for example, walking your student to class, I know that had been a pretty laborious process, but that is a policy that now is, in fact, in Sarasota County Schools. If you find that that's not the case in your school, please bring it forward to either a board member or the superintendent. Same with any other issues. We have to be able to bring them forward, and I genuinely know that people here want to help fix them, and I want to continue that as a positive momentum forward, and really, yes, we understand that there's going to be areas of disagreement, but in a respectful way. And again, I look at the beginning of today, as just like I said, very symbolic of the first time in a very long time since I've been on this board where we've really been able to not excuse things away, but say, here's where we are. Here's what it's going to take, and it's going to take some work, but we're all committed to it. I'm all in, so I'm very optimistic about the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ziegler. Mr. Enos, would you like to add anything?
I would just like to say thank you to everything that Ms. Ziegler did for us as the chair, and I appreciate the opportunity to be vice chair. And I would reiterate also that if you continue to look in the rearview mirror, you never see what's ahead of us. And I know that there's lots of really, really great things ahead of us as it relates to the school district, to our students, to our faculty, and to the leadership that is continually to be shown, which it can be seen with all the different achievements that's happening with our students throughout the school district. It seems like every time you get another email, there's another faculty member or there's another student that's receiving another award. I think that just is tremendous for all of us in the community. And with that, I thank everyone for voting me as vice chair, and I will be back at the next board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Enos. Ms. Marinelli, please.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also want to thank Mrs. Ziegler for the leadership of this past year on the board. I just wanted to address one thing that was said, that media specialists were fired. In 2010, we had a very major economic downturn, and media specialists were not fired. Those were positions that were eliminated, and they were given other positions in the district. Now, we might be semantics, but they were not fired. The positions were eliminated. So I think that, and now, and we weren't the only district that had to eliminate them, and many people were not in favor of that. I don't know of anybody that was in favor of that. And with not having those positions, we have found ourselves with things in our media specialists that would have never ended up in there if we would have had the media specialists, because they are the trained people, master's level people, and their title was changed to media specialist from librarian, because the job demands were broadened to include technology and all the other things. So I just wanted that to be clear, and that is where sometimes people that have knowledge of the past, to make sure we don't make those mistakes again. Just like we talk about history, everything else. You need to know the past so you don't make the same mistakes again. But on a more positive note, I want to thank the press for the positive news articles. We've had a lot of good things happen in this district for our students, but one thing that I'm really happy about is the farm school at McIntosh. If anybody's driven by, the ground's been broken, things are starting to move, and when we talk about all kids, this is an opportunity for all students to be able to participate and learn everything, where our food comes from, all the jobs that are available. So I want to thank staff for getting that moving, and I'm very excited to go and see that facility when it's done. So I also want to thank everybody for the hard work you're doing. It's always not easy, and you all have really stepped up, but you always do. So thank you. And Superintendent Connor, thank you, because every time I get a email from somebody in the community or a parent that has a problem, I send it directly to you. I don't answer them because I don't have those answers. That's you and whoever, and you always answer in less than 24 hours. It's pretty amazing. So I appreciate that. And then I'd never get any thing that says that you don't address it. So that's how I gauge things are going. If I I don't hear about it anymore. So thank you very much.
Mrs. Ziegler.
I'm sorry, I forgot two things. I wanted to congratulate Dr. Frost again, and then I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Cantis. I know he's not here, but I have worked with him. So I just remember him giving me a tour when I first came on the board years ago, and spending many hours on the phone with him for all sorts of different issues as a new board member. And he will be greatly missed, but well-deserved retirement, and I'm sure his family is very excited about that. And last item, I just wanted to highlight that we had two members, one last time, but also today, speak about some different opportunities for civic engagement. And I loved those ideas, and I would love to see us expand upon that. I've been doing a lot of reading about Thomas Jefferson recently, and I think it just highlights how important really the sole purpose or the initial intent of public education was largely around ensuring our future generations really understood the making and the founding of this country and were educated in the manner so they could preserve it. And so I love the idea of this district trying to elevate that and partnering. We have a fantastic supervisor elections, but any way that we can do that, and it's just general civic engagement, I think I would love to see us do various initiatives. So I wanted to highlight that those comments have my support. So that now I'm done.
Thank you. We always want to hear if you have more. To end on a positive note, just like to recognize once again Mary Kay and Joe Henson for the work and the tremendous support that they have given this district in literacy and in pre-kindergarten, and very much appreciated. A reminder to the community of the beautiful dancers that were here tonight from Northport High School that they will be performing Sleeping Beauty's Curse on December 1st at 7 p.m. in our beautiful Northport High School. And once again, ending this meeting with a heartfelt thank you to Mrs. Ziegler. We appreciate you. Appreciate your leadership, and change is not easy, but when it's needed, I want to recognize that you stood up to it, and this board stood up to it, and we have landed in an incredible place for students with great staff. And on that note, the next work session is scheduled for Tuesday, December 12th. Time will be December 12th at a 2 to be determined, followed by a 6:00 p.m. board meeting. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. That's the first time I've done that.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay.